Welcome back, Hopeful Tribe. Today we have 3 questions about healthy relationships. How important do you think communication is in healthy relationships?
Well, I think there is a saying, communication is key, right? It's it's probably the most important thing. If you can't communicate about important issues, what is the point of a relationship? Communication is key, and not just that sort of surface communication that we all engage in. In a relationship, it's different. I was single for so many years, and I thought I was growing to be such a great communicator. But if you're not sort of testing it in a relationship, and also single, and then I don't have kids and all that thing, those sorts of things. So, I had my communication at work and thought it was growing. But there's something intimate about more personal relationships. So in any relationship, communication is key. I think it's tested kind of most in an intimate relationship, however. But yeah, communication is super important. Honest, open communication about anything.
Awesome. Well, I think you're a really good communicator. How did you learn to communicate effectively?
It started with attempting to tame my ego. I think that's the main thing that gets in the way of honest, open communication. Sort of not having a willingness to consider the fact that you might be wrong and the other person is right, or consider the fact that maybe you need to apologize first, or consider the fact, just putting your own ego in the way and needing to be right. So it started with learning to kind of understand how much my ego sometimes dominated conversations and wanting to be right. And once I decided to sort of put that aside and just sort of open my heart to whatever the possibilities were that were coming up in conversations, my communication got better. So that's how I learned how to communicate effectively, just by putting my own ego aside and being open and being willing to consider, willing to consider the other person's point of view, willing to consider I might be wrong, willing to apologize and not think that kind of said something, about me, as far as like, oh, you're weak if you apologize first, or all those sorts of negative tapes that we have going in our heads.
How do you know someone really cares about your well-being?
Yeah, so they can give lip service to it. They can say that they care about your well-being, but if their actions don't line up with that, I don't think that they do. But the way that I know is they care about the whole me. They try to understand the whole me, accept me unconditionally how I am, but also push me to grow in healthy ways. They set a good example, and also help me set a good example for them. It's sort of an even back and forth. And also too, they just sort of, give good advice, and their advice, I'll talk about ego again, sometimes friends are giving you advice and their ego is in the way. So that sort of clouds what's being said. So if I can speak to someone in a straightforward way and feel like they have my best interest at heart, and they show it in all the ways, they keep in contact, they look after tending to our friendship. I feel like I can trust that they care about my well-being.
Awesome.
How important do you think communication is in a healthy relationship?
I think it's really important. I think it's top of the list, actually, because no matter how you feel about a person, if you're not able to communicate well with them, it's going to be really bumpy. It's just going to be too bumpy without clear, honest communication.
Nice. I love that answer. How did you learn to communicate effectively?
Oh, wow. Believe it or not, my mom was my first communication model. She not only was really good at giving communication advice, but she was a psychiatrist, and she gave me access to her entire library. And I was really fond of Carl Rogers as a kid. Have you ever heard of Rogerian therapy?
I've not.
Anyway, the most important points of Rogerian therapy, or humanistic or client-centered therapy, as some people call it, are number 1, unconditional positive regard, and number 2, active listening. Those were the 2 most important things in that school. And so I did a lot of active listening because I really admired his work and thought it seemed like the most, humanistic and kind
How old were you when you wrote
approach. Maybe 9.
Oh, wow. My wife. You're so amazing.
Such active listening.
That's awesome.
Yep. Well, I was bored with Barbies anyway, so that's where I started. And then later on, I think just through school and stuff like that, I learned more about communication, and really a lot from my clients over the years. Because, you can learn different theories and techniques and stuff, but it's when you're really trying to help somebody and they're not understanding you because of different disabilities or traumas they've experienced, you have to get creative and like really keep trying like different ways of communicating until they understand what you're trying to say. So
I love that, the whole differentiation, and responding where they are. That's beautiful.
And then lastly, on the communication thing, I later on in life fell in love with Marshall Rosenberg.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah,
NVC.
the author of NVC, Nonviolent Communication. Some people call it compassionate communication. I just think it's brilliant and could cause world peace if you're not careful.
There you go.
So,
There you go. Very
yeah.
nice. Very nice. That's awesome. How do you know someone really cares about your well-being?
Yeah. Well, much like you, I do like to watch what they do. I think the best advice I ever got from a therapist was after my first divorce when I was 21. I asked my therapist, how am I going to know if somebody's good for me or not? Because I was just kind of shaken about my judgment. And she said, you'll know when you're around a good person for you if you feel 10 feet tall whenever you're around them. So,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And I'm 5 feet tall, so that felt especially cool, right? Like, oh wow, somebody can make you feel taller.
Yeah. I feel taller when I'm around you.
I feel taller when I'm around you, baby. So that's the 3 questions about healthy relationships. Put in the comments below if you have more questions about healthy relationships. I'll make sure to answer them the same day. Also, if you ever need life coaching, please check us out at hopefultribe.com. You can schedule right on there.
We wanted to include this quote at the end by Robert Waldinger. So in our last videos, we talked a little bit about taking care of your body and that, but taking care of your body is important, but tending to your relationships is a form of self-care too.
Okay, Hopeful Tribe. I hope you feel loved and hopeful until we see you again. You're the best. Well done.